gosh, it was interesting because there were all these Russian signs
everywhere.
And the older generation got scared that the Russians had come back.
But they saw all the police in the station, and really, people were really nervous.
This happened to us in Israel too, when we had a protest scene in front of a building, and some locals were there, and they thought that this was
really happening.
Really happened.
Yeah. It was intense.
It was very guerrilla style. But then we shot all that material, and like a good chunk of I did in the episode we shot in like a day.
Oh yes, that was all in a day.
Yes.
And we were running. We were like run and gun. It was intense.
Yeah.
All over that air station.
It sounds like it. I also want to talk about Keen's resignation speech. That, Leslie, I'd like to start with you. How did you put that scene together? What were your goals going in for something that powerful?
Well, that is an amazing speech. I mean, Alex Ganzo wrote and it's interesting how it developed because, you know, we were very concerned. Elizabeth Marvel, who's an amazing actress, we were very concerned that we have a female president who is resigning. And at one point, there was nothing in it about her addressing that. And it's something that kept coming up over and over. I kept bringing it up, Beth kept bringing it up, that we have to address this head on. We can't have a female president resign, even if it's for the greater good. So the line that he wrote about, you know, if it takes a woman,
people say it's because I'm a woman.
Exactly. And you know, if it takes a woman to do whatever the line. There's a reason I'm not an actor.
People say it's because I'm a woman. If it takes a woman, then so be it.
Yes.
But funny because Alex struggled mightily with that line. And again, it's how that, and the story of how it came to him, I think, is just a good story, which I'm very happy to call up because it's his. But Alex woke up very early, and they've been talking, Elizabeth and Alex and Leslie, and about this. And Alex couldn't find a way to make it work, and it was getting very close to shooting time. And he walked out. I guess woke up at 4:30 in the morning in Charlotte, took a long walk, and found himself face to face with a very large homeless guy who said, "I'm going to kill you," and started chasing Alex back.
Wow.
And so Alex is running, and Alex is a pretty athletic guy and very fast, and ran back to the hotel. And this guy is lumbering after him like a grizzly bear. And breathless, he runs into the Jefferson, and no one was there. It was like a Kubrick movie. And then he looked behind him, and the guy was gone, and his heart is pounding, and he sleeps, and he goes, "I got it," and the line came to him. True story, which just shows you how the strange accretion of things wind up creeping into your unconscious. Did you not know that story?
No. Oh, I didn't know that story either. That's why I'm like, wow, I wonder if he dreamed that story. Anyway, shooting that scene was incredibly emotional for all of us. I had a very clear idea visually of wanting to be, whose point of view to be in, and how we talked, Elizabeth and I talked a lot about breaking down the scene into bits. I mean, it was all shot all together, but in terms of the emotional turns, what was more politically based and about the country and where it turned. And she was amazing to work with on that. And we didn't do a lot of takes, quite honestly. I mean, when she did it, everyone in the room was literally weeping because you only hoped that you would have a president or anyone in government that would take the higher road that would be about bringing people together and for the good of the country, for the good of the people. So there was something so profound about that. And I wanted to definitely use the fact of seeing what's behind the scene as well as seeing her through the TV screen.
Yes.
Which I think is very powerful because that's how most of America and the world would see her. So it juxtaposed between the real life of it and the shooting of it, and of course her, her chief of staff, being shocked, not knowing this was going on, and that connection, but how the world would see that.
Yeah, I was really curious about when you toggled between the frame, seeing it through the video screen and not. Were there certain lines that you underlined as you were going through, being like, this is what we're going to see as an American?
There were ideas about that. You know, I always want to see what opportunity comes in the directing and the playing of it. But yeah, it was kind of charted out in that way.
Right.
And yeah, an amazing scene.
And then as far as the writing goes, just going back to Howard, your story about Alex, I just feel like there's something missing there. Did it trigger something?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just the way you're on, you know, when you're charged with something, and again, the speech itself went through such an evolution. And again, to Alex's amazing credit, I have to say, from my perspective, her resignation was not an obvious way for the season to end for me. But it was for Alex in a way that you're unconscious intuits. And he sort of knew that, and I think, you know, Ron is here, you know, in the writer's room, we really did turn that around for quite a while, but Alex sort of stayed he had this idea in his head, and I wasn't sure how the dots would connect until the dots connected.
Yeah.
And so there was a tremendous evolution. So it was this accretion of Alex, you know, heard it and heard Elizabeth's, you know, and Leslie's, and I don't know, Claire, how much, or if you were in on it. You stayed out of that one. That's her problem. But
I had a little involvement. I'm actually proud of it. I had dinner with Elizabeth a few nights before the final rewrite came in, and she said to me, when I got the speech the first time, I'd been having discussions with Alex for several years about not wanting the show to be a Polaroid or a reality show of the world we're living in, but to offer what I feel our job is in a fictional world and a drama, a heightened opportunity to offer a possibility, an option to make this broken world a better place. And then when I opened up that 12th episode and I saw the speech he wrote for Elizabeth Keene, my heart just sailed. I just was like ecstatic. And I'm a man, and I didn't see what Elizabeth said to me at dinner. I said, I'm so excited. I just think this is everything I've hoped for. And she said, I'm really worried that people are going to think it's about a woman and miss the offering, because they're going to just take off it's a woman and not see the gift. And I said, oh my God, I'm so stupid. You are so right. I said, you know, just make sure. She says, I'm talking to Alice. I said, don't stop. Don't stop. So it's because I said don't stop.
Yeah. So it was all because of Mandy.
Yeah.
so much is. I'm saying.
Did you say that homeless guy?
Yeah.
She said,
The homeless guy was me.
To what you were saying earlier. You said earlier in the season, and I quote, this was your most rewarding season yet. Could you elaborate on why? Is it because...
It's because of the speech that Elizabeth Keene made. Literally, that's what I wanted at the end of every chapter of our novel. It's 12, each novel is a season, 12 chapters to each season. And I wanted us to give an offering, an option for people who watch this show, like doctors watch doctor show, lawyers watch lawyer shows, intelligence people watch intelligence show, people in Washington watch this show, and it's a bedtime story, and you never know what gets into people's minds. You never know where it comes from, and I think our job in this business has never been more important, whether you make music or paintings or writing or acting or directing or however you tell a story. You need to tell your stories right now with a loud voice.
I want to go back to breaking this story. So I know you guys go to spy camp every year, all four of you, right, and a couple others.
Four, yeah.
The whole writers.
What a great camp.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, this year, what was the biggest takeaway? What surprised you the most? Claire, let's start with you.
Well, it was surprise, a lot about Russian intervention and active measures. And, when we went months after Trump had been elected and everybody was adjusting to that That wild phenomenon. And just talking about, you know, having a president who was not really engaged with, you know, the body politic, who just was not interested in cooperating with the intelligence community, and you know, and so yeah, I mean that was the thrust of it, basically. Yeah.
And for all of you too, was that the biggest takeaway that you guys took away?
Well, go ahead, Les.
Yeah, you know, we had a man who you see all the time now on MSNBC and CNN, Clint Watts, who came and talked about how the Russians actually infiltrated, and a lot of his work is in.
Has a new book out, please go out and buy it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that really how they did it, and that the
Breaking it down pretty explicitly.
yeah, it was very explicit, and that was a huge takeaway to how extreme the intelligence community thought this intervention was. And you know, we know the CIA. Obviously, we don't show the CIA in either a positive or negative light. It exists in the shades of gray. But they said this was the worst intervention in any foreign, by any foreign power on any other foreign power. And like, we took down the duly elected government of Guatemala. So, you know, that's a huge thing to say. But I think the fact that we're in as General Michael Hayden said, a post-truth world where facts no longer matter is very terrifying to the intelligence community. And that's something that we...
I would say, but also there's, without it being a history lesson, there's an attempt on our part to contextualize this conflict, which predates Trump, the Russian intervention in the election. I mean, as from their perspective, and we spoke to Russian experts, some who were former defectors, talking about in the Russian context what happened after the wall fell. How did our actions and maybe our hubris at that time, whether we were co-opting, pushing NATO to their doorstep and fomenting with our NGOs, so we're trying to sort of always incorporate the complexity of what's happening in a broader context. Again, without moral equivalence, just that. So it is just like, we take this soup of what scares people, what keeps them up at night, and then try to bring it into the writers' room. I think the challenge this year was, because it was a more complex story, if the target is democracy itself instead of the CIA or a train station, it becomes, I think, a much more, a more challenging target to hit.
And it's a different brand of terrorism,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm done. I just grunted.
I heard that.
When I go into these sessions as what we call spy camp, and we have the privilege of interviewing the who's who of the intelligence community, think tanks, Pulitzer Prize writers, etc. I'm watching their behavior more than the details. The writers are picking out certain details, to scope it, but they can have contact later on to hone it down, make sure everything's accurate. But I just want to share a quick story because the most frightening thing happened 8 months after spy camp, and it was behind the scenes. The year before, I was late, missed spy camp. I was in Cambodia on an educational trip that I went with. American Jewish World Service, I recommend everyone take one of those trips. So, and I missed it. So by then, the writers had gotten in line in terms of what their story trajectory was. So I come in the room, and we've been with Michael Hayden and other members of equal height in the intelligence community, equal level. And I was most impressed always at the cool nature they had, their ability to do a 1-minute presentation as they would have to do with presidents every morning. And but the cool nature. And so when I came in the year late, I had everybody to myself. The phone went off, their buzzers went off. Just before their tushes hit the seat. These two guys, Michael Hayden being one of them, and they got the message that Comey just let Hillary off the hook, and but essentially destroyed her life in other ways by what he said after what he said initially. And they I'd only seen these guys be cool as a cucumber. And steam was coming out of their ears. Their faces turned red, they couldn't sit down, and these were the #1 guys in the ballgame. And I was just, fixed. And I immediately assumed, never asked them, but I assume I'm right, that the reason they were so incensed is their compatriots lost their careers. They had individuals in their world that lost their careers probably for some far less than fraction than not knowing how to work the phone systems, etc. And so then the next year comes, it's January, February, when we have spy camp again. We're asking questions. One question I'll never forget was, somebody said to Michael Hayden regarding Kim Jong-un and the North Korean missile crisis, are you more concerned about that than the Cuban Missile Crisis? And Michael, who was the Air Force general before he became the head of the CIA, he literally just answered the question in a very cool manner. And everybody, guys like him were just so calm. But he answered the question, what's the target? What's the target? Meaning, you shoot a missile, it's over. All of it. But what I couldn't get over was how calm they were. And I called my wife, Catherine, when it was over. And I said, I got to tell you, we asked all the questions that anybody would ask. What are you most afraid of? What areas are you most concerned about, et cetera? The Russian intervention, on it, all of it. But they had a calm about them that made me not worry, because I had seen them not be calm the previous year. And I'd seen their human nature be exposed. So about 8 months after the inauguration, we're shooting in Richmond, Virginia. And this other individual who was in the room with Michael the same day that I had that initial experience with the phones, I took him aside in between while we were lighting, and I said, you remember that day a year ago when you guys got hot and everything, and I saw, that you're capable of getting hot. And then in January, you're calm as can be. I said, I was sort of fascinated with your calm as can be. Everybody else isn't calm. Why were you calm as can be? And he said, well, because I've spent my life in that Oval Office. A good portion of my life, every morning. And I know the difference between a candidate and a president. And I know once you're president, what happens once you're in that office. And I was certain 8 months ago that once that individual was seated in that office, the office would change the man. And I was wrong, and now I'm frightened.
Wow. I don't know how to follow that.
And it reminds me of a moment, either the year before or 2 years before, when Claire and I were walking back to the hotel in Georgetown after spy camp one day. And we're in silence. We're just exhausted from input. And we looked at each other, and I don't know whether we said the words or not, but what was said or not said was, that was more than we needed to know.
Is that what it's always been like from the beginning? The first year you went to spy camp, was there a totally different mood from, say, last year or the year before?
Oh, it's about what cabin you're in, who's going to be in your bunk.
Who's in next to dinner?
What's for dinner?